It was noticed as the rehabilitation of the YWCA building at 78 North Marengo. Everybody is absolutely supportive of that. What those notices did not say is, oh, by the way, we are going to demolish the parks on that block and build on it a 6-story hotel.
Pasadena actually participates in a civic process as long as they know when it's happening. And in this particular case, I suspect many people don't understand what's happening to their civic center.
We live in an era of disposability.
We have an uphill struggle.
Mammon triumphing.
See, how did those decisions get made?
It is a huge puzzle why this was done in this manner.
It probably establishes a precedent.
And it's a domino effect.
Is that for the first time since 1923, a major alteration is occurring to a historic district, and the parks are being directly impacted by development, commercial development, in a civic center setting.
What do we want our city to be, and what are our resources?
We have civic architecture, we have a commercial architecture, and we have a residential architecture that all came with very high ideals.
I think it was wonderful that they finally stepped up and bought the Y. Because it's an important building. It's a Julia Morgan building, the only one in our city, and it was deteriorating and needed to be preserved. There's absolutely no question about that.
I'm not sure that that building, since its purchase in 2012 by the city, has been properly secured. And the stewardship of that building, I question it. There's such a commitment apparently by the city to restore it. Again, it's demolition by neglect.
They looked at the aspect of converting or adaptively reusing that particular property into a boutique hotel. But what happened is that not only did the building in and of itself become part of this process of an adaptive reuse, but there was this decision to also enable the development to include public open space, parkland.
You know, so what's being proposed is the back of a hotel facing City Hall.
Which threatens to overwhelm the YWCA, which is counter to the goals that the city has stated for rehabbing the historic resource, the YWCA.
They decided to include the public park as part of a development right.
It was simply thrust upon us, and I found out about it March of 2014 when a citizen of the city objected strenuously, not to the rehabilitation of the Y, but to throwing in this land, as the city calls it, to sweeten the deal, throw in the dirt to sweeten the deal. And I've said, these are parks, they're part of the civic center, they're not dirt.
I'm very concerned about the loss of the parkland that is facing City Hall.
If we build in this park, it will set the notion of continuing to build in all the remaining parks that we have.
The deal was done in secret. It was, the parks were not considered community assets.
It's important to have the public's business done in public.
I think they limited their study of what to do with this tremendously.
People are aware about our civic center from the sense that everybody knows that it's a beautiful place to be. But none of them really know that it's currently being threatened.
We're building a city, not a series of commercialization of parcels.
The YWCA needs to be saved, and that's clear. How we do that is going to send a message, I think, to history for this generation.
If you change the setting, you change what the district is supposed to be saying, the relationships of the City Beautiful movement, and the YWCA itself.
So when you do something to the heart of the city, to the seat of the city, I think that impacts people on a personal basis.
We should be incredibly concerned about this because the City of Pasadena and its residents have already given up public park space out in front of the Civic Auditorium. That we lost when we built the Plaza Pasadena, and it's not coming back.
And the city owns these 2 blocks in front of City Hall.
This is an amazing opportunity in time where you have control of arguably the most important block in the city of Pasadena, next to City Hall.
And the city is giving these places away.
Well, we've got these 3 pieces of land here. What can we do? Well, this group that used to be called Kimpton said they wanted to come and put something there. Yeah, let's go for that. Well, no, we can do a lot better than that.
It isn't just a series of buildings. It's a Baroque concept of things are relational. They belong together. If you go in the Civic Center, there's a sense of order, there's a sense of calm, there's a sense of well-being.
They were designed to make us feel that way, to engender this civic pride, this civic sense of togetherness.
And the city is known as a city of gardens. And that Civic Center provides a showcase for showing why it's a city of gardens.
You know, the civic gardens are meant to provide a space to appreciate City Hall.
Very simply, if you're going to determine are there any impacts on the Civic Center, well, you first have to know exactly what the Civic Center is. And it is more than the 12 buildings that are the contributing structures to this National Register district. It is all of the cultural resources, the layout of the roads, the width of the roads, the trees, the parks, the lighting fixtures, the pathways, the historical events that took place, one of which is memorialized by the Jackie and Mac Robinson statues on that corner.
The fact that there are parks there, that there's space there, there's open space, and it's green, and it's inviting, and it has trees, is key to experiencing that entire core part of the Civic Center.
Other cities are doing major facelifts of their public squares and civic center areas. Difference being, they are pulling together the community for extensive public meetings to say, what do you want to see, because this is your front yard, this is yours. Now that does not mean there may not be some commercial component to it. There in fact will be, and that can be a very good thing. But the primary activity is for civic engagement.
Before that, our City Hall was in a commercial district. subject to commercial influences. They did not want that. They wanted to have a unique space that said this is an area for the public. And they created a bond measure that allowed people to vote for grounds, approaches, and appurtenances to create a city beautiful.
Which had to do with a Beaux-Arts axial plan, dignified buildings of grandeur, having streets that led to the buildings, showcase them, and an essential visual closure of the area.
Edward Bennett was the architect of this civic center. It's considered one of his most successful because what he did was work with the existing streets, work with the existing topography, and work with all of the assets that Pasadena had, including this marvelous setting of the mountains.
They understood the importance of setting. They understood the importance of having gardens and outdoor space, how that gardens and outdoor space and the grand boulevards were important for the setting, for the monumentality of the buildings. It sets the hierarchy.
Well, I think that the people who thought about this vision of the Civic Center and of that building truly believed that having the seat of government be a beautiful place and having people come there to pay their bills, which they did in the old days, gave them a contact with something that was part of them and their community, but was at the same time grander and aspirational.
And life and, you know, the things that are designed for people are disposable. They're meant to last a certain amount of time. You know, but these buildings, this part of our city was meant for permanence.
There's a continuing cumulative effect of what's been happening in the Civic Center since about the 1960s. Buildings that don't fit, taking up open space. Remember that the City Beautiful movement had a lot to do with the settings of buildings.
It's something intrinsic to us. It speaks to our very soul. That's why it is still here. That's why it is to use the real estate parlance, the sought-after neighborhood.
The layout of the city was to the mountains. There's no San Gabriel Mountains in other cities. It's just Pasadena. And the pattern of development, particularly the Civic Center, makes this a unique place. So it did matter to people what it looked like, what it felt like. And it was a unique thing. It still is in Southern California. There's no place like Pasadena.
This discussion is about how many hotel rooms can we cram onto this site? We've skipped over this discussion that every other city is having. How can we engage our cities?
I think if the city of Pasadena doesn't care about the Civic Center, it doesn't care about the rest of the city.
So that we lose the sense of central planning, of buildings within parks, generous setbacks, public spaces, and it changes the whole notion from being a public civic center now to a regular commercial block.
That's why planning makes a difference, is over time, if the community and the public entity understands the picture they're creating, it provides an atmosphere of certainty for investors. It provides a certainty for people who live here, who work here, that it won't be compromised over time.
In fact, the irony would be is that the voters who voted to create the district as it was from being in a commercial block is now reverting back to a commercial space once again.
Is now our special place being invaded by commercial interests. It's antithetical to what the founders wanted and what we as a city value.
And when I worked at the National Trust, there was a kind of a tagline, it was very unofficial, that came up. We would always say that old isn't good because it's old because it's good.
Need for something permanent and long-lasting and durable and enduring, you know, that hasn't gone away. It's not any less important. It's just sometimes it gets buried.
I think the first step is to make sure everybody at least really knows what's happening, and let's get that discussion going.
Well, it's not normal. The YWCA building had been eminent domained, and I think from that standpoint, it changed the way that the city was going to look at that particular property. It had remained abandoned, vacant, and derelict for many, many years, and the city was getting more and more concerned.
But they're seeking a really superficial short-term solution to this by giving away the land and promoting building a development there that is going to be too big and not compatible with the setting and even with the Y itself.
We don't know what this means relative to beginning to encroach upon the setting in the district. It could mean anything is now in play, but it hasn't been defined. But this project seems to be defining the way that the Civic Center will go.
The Y is a historic building. It's only 2 to 3 stories high. It needs to be completed. The courtyard needs to be completed that Julia Morgan started. But to build a 6-story building onto this small treasure that we have, it does not respect the Y, and it does not respect the Civic Center. It intrudes on the vistas to the post office and to the other buildings in that area. And the result will be that there will be another 6-story building on the other side of Holly. And I think this whole thing needs to be rethought, and really we need to come up with something better.
And this is important to everybody because this is the front door to our city. It's the seat of our regional governance. It sets the tone for everything. It's also going to be the place of how do we express our democratic ideals. And it should also be a place for the citizens, a place for all citizens to come and engage and express their civic identity.
If this was something that the citizens bought and paid for in 1923, should we have a say in it if we're going to basically be giving it to private development?
There are reasons in the city code for selling surplus property, and all of those reasons in the code are public benefit, except for the last one, which is the one they're hanging their hat on, and that is it will benefit neighboring properties.
We want to embrace what is existing. As it's on the edge of a commercial district, as I said, we can see the possibility of a hotel, and a hotel can be very engaging. But let's make it something that's truly representative not only of Pasadena, but of the Civic Center itself.
Well, the hotel may well benefit neighboring properties for a while, assuming it's successful.
What form will that hotel take? How will it continue to incorporate not only those existing gardens, but the very important approaches?
The city needs office space. They're renting office space throughout the city. Couldn't they consolidate their office space and put an addition on the Y, and then use the swimming pool, which is inside, and the gymnasium for community benefit? I just think there was no thought put into this. It was just, a hotel and nothing else. And we don't even know who the other responders were to the city's invitation to various architects and developers for ideas.
Citizens first learn of this. It was way down the line. It was 2 years after the request for development proposals was made. There was no public process before this.
There are lots of other solutions for a hotel project. So to put it right there where the parks or the open space is, I think is a big mistake for now and for the future.
And yeah, that they just, without the input of the community, in-depth input of the community, talking to firms that specialize in civic center design, taking into consideration where will we be going?
Proposals that came in, there were 6, we're not allowed to know what they were. The evaluation panel, it was selected, internal, we can't find out who the names are. We realized there was an exclusive negotiation choice after the exclusive negotiation was actually signed by the staff. They had done it in closed session to approve it.
One of the problems is that when we do development deals that tend to have a certain level of disclosure that is not given to the public, this notion of having people more actively involved in this process somehow becomes more challenging.
I mean, one of my biggest questions is the city purchased or took site control of the YWCA building and the adjacent parking lot, a very good thing. They paid, I believe it was $8.3 million in the context of a court settlement. Why did they then determine they needed to recoup $8.3 million and recoup it from this particular site? You're looking at a city budget, and maybe it had to do with because it was redevelopment, maybe they used redevelopment funds. I don't know, but it's a puzzle to me. How did they even come to this conclusion?
My sense is that in Pasadena, you have the notion of people who understand that legacy, want to attempt to protect it, but at the same time realize that we can develop and we can build if we hold true to what the original principles were.
It was an asset. They made an investment, which was a good thing. They made an investment on the part of the citizens, and that was a great thing, and I think the city leaders should be applauded for that. And we're just saying, now we want to get into a discussion with you. Let's really enhance that investment that you made. Let's not throw it away, because this is an incredibly valuable piece of land, this block, that you will never, ever, ever again have the opportunity to control if you in fact proceed with what is now proposed.